And we're unmuted and we're underway. Welcome to the new and improved YoCast. We'll be taking the Oberlin women's basketball versus Elmira today. We're starting right off here. We've got two lovely guests. I'm always joined here with Jack Povolitis as well as John Schooner. Guys, it's nice to see you again. Jack, we're going to take it right to you early with the Povolitis keys to victory.
No whiteboard today, so I got my notebook. Keys to victory number 1. Crash the boards. This team out-rebounds Oberlin by a margin of almost 10. We've got some size inside, but that doesn't matter. Rebounding is about effort and positioning, so today is all going to be about hustle and grit. Get the boards. That's what I want to see. Number 2, take care of the rock. Turnovers. Both of these teams are pretty good turnover margin. They're both in the positive. Elmira loves to score points off turnovers. They average about 25 a game. So taking care of the ball when you do eventually, if you do turn it over, getting back on defense, keeping your shape, keeping your structure, picking up a person, playing good defense, that's key. Third key to the game, and this one's really important. Roy G. Biv, Desiree Roy, the top scorer for Elmira. That's what the Roy is for. The G is for Gata. The B, bother her. The I, no inside. She's only taken 4 threes all year. She hasn't made one. She likes to get her points in the paint, keep her out of that box, make her shoot from somewhere else. And the V, voracious. I want to see some intense defense from the Yo women here today. And I think if we follow these keys to victory, it's going to be a big win. Maybe we'll get one of those margins that Elmira lost to earlier, that 119 to 25 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that game Jack was talking about was a 116 to 23 loss to St. John's Fisher back in early December. You'd love to see a scoreline like that for the Yo women today, wouldn't you, guys?
Maybe a 60 piece from Gina. Who knows? I mean, anything's possible when you got a scoreline like that.
Maybe a Luka-esque stat line from
50-point
the 60 and 21 game from the other day.
Also joining us today is our technical director, Mike Mancini. He's in the background making sure everything's running smoothly. And I believe they're playing at Genita in their gymnasium, just getting things underway. Team's coming out, getting all hyped up.
Yeah, Juniata is where this game's at. Yeah, that's how you say that. And Comfort Inn Classic. So good sponsorship right there by Juniata. So we'll see if the Yo women can go 2-0 coming off that big victory yesterday with a 35-point third quarter. Win a big win over the host Juniata Eagles yesterday.
Let's take a time to acknowledge Comfort Inn. No La Quinta Inn, no Best Western, none of those garbage chains. Comfort Inn.
Maybe if everything goes well for you today, Schooner, you can maybe get a NIL deal from Comfort Inn. You know, for your senior season on the
me and Max can swing a little NIL Comfort Inn official sponsorship of Yeoman baseball. Love that.
They got that continental breakfast. It's nothing like it.
Honestly, maybe next time we could get Povolitis' Keys to the Game sponsored by Comfort Inn.
I like that. Yeah. How to stay comfortable in the game. Oh, big steal from Allison. Good pass. Yep. Good start. Big cheers coming from the Oberlin bench here. It's an away game for both teams, so no home court advantage. Oh, wow. All right. Desiree took the shot outside. Now, when you're going fast break like that, if you get a quick rebound, and you're looking to go from one of your big players, the guards leak out wide like that. And the bigs turn, they look, they get the ball up, and then you want to move up the court. And you saw it on that first steal from Allison where she did a really good job coming up the floor. Camille trailed behind her. You really want to, as a post player, you really want to get the ball out wide quick, those lanes light, and move the ball up fast. Sort of almost like soccer in a way. You get the ball wide, let your wingers go. Let everybody come up behind you. So Oberlin looking to move the ball quick. They're doing pretty good so far.
Fair few.
Off the court, though. I'm hating his shirt color. What is that? Like a mauve or something? Pink?
A fair
Yeah,
few
probably looking
shots
pink
coming.
to be. Sorry, go ahead, Max.
Fair few shots coming early, Jack. I heard the men's basketball game we're having a few chuckers come on the court. Can that be recommended for this game?
Well, I mean, I never recommended it. Just chuck it up. You know, you should be trying to take good shots here. But I mean, Oberlin players that are shooting right now are the ones they want, taking the shots. Gina, um, Bryn, they got Camille Taylor. You know, the top three scorers they've got shooting the ball here for the most part. So that's who they want taking the ball at the rack and going for it. But not really much falling.
You saw last time down there, Jack, and we talked about this pregame a little bit. Is rebounding going to be pretty important for Oberlin today? Got second, third chance opportunities on that last trip, and just weren't able to cash in. So hopefully they start falling here as we get deeper into this game.
There's nothing more demoralizing than letting up offensive rebounds. It just feels like you can't ever get out of it. It's sort of like in hockey when the puck just stays in your zone and you can't make a shift. You're just sitting there for 2 or 3 minutes just defending. You really you feel like crap, and that's why you saw their coach getting really animated, his face getting about as red as his shirt was, really wanting to have their team get back down and have an offensive possession here.
You think that shirt might have been a Christmas present, or?
I mean, if it was, I don't think I would have been very happy with it.
I wouldn't have given that one to you, Jack.
Because if he's picking that one out on his own.
Yeah, get your arms big. Yeah, that's what you're saying there. Yeah. Get big. Oh, it's a little. What is this? Like a 3-2. All right, well, I'll drop a little 3-2 for the folks at home. You can take a look at that. Okay.
Oh, when we were talking about the men's team, we will be having a few guests from the men's team. We might be seeing the head coach, Coach Shiva, on. We'll also might be seeing the head assistant, Oliver Rips, the student manager. Be good to see him. Haven't seen him since we left for break. John, it's been sad not seeing you as often as I normally do.
I know it's a little weird, you know. Couple weeks off, and now we're commentating on Zoom. So kind of a little throwback, honestly, if you will, to some of the pandemic changes that we had a couple years ago.
When do you guys report back to campus to start baseball practice?
We get back on the 23rd is our first day of practice, and I think we all get back on the 22nd, though, so everybody can get situated. We have a meeting before then, I think is right.
Right before you know it. So
can't wait to see
what do we have
everybody.
for New Year's resolutions, fellas?
Max, you want to go first?
Well, I hope to do more YoCasts. This is great getting this underway. I'm always happy to support my basketball teams. They're grinding it out. They have to stay on campus, and they always are grinding out those hard winters, those harsh Oberlin, Northeast Ohio winters. Jack, it looks like you got the formation running up there. Got it all drawn up.
Still working on it, but I want to get one more possession here of seeing what the Oberlin's offensive set's going to look like. My New Year's resolution is come up with better New Year's resolutions, because I never it's any good. Yeah, good hands.
Yeah, good defensive start here for Oberlin.
Just kind of figure out the scoring side a little bit, but yeah, you love to see the early stops, and to Jack's point, the early rebounding.
Yeah, there's a nice jumper there, mid-range from Jefferson. She's the leading scorer for Oberlin at 14.2 points per game.
Yeah, kind of a bit of surprise seeing Jefferson, being the leading scorer this season after, we had 3, I think, all-conference performers from last year. But, she's been a really pleasant surprise, at least for me so far this year.
Yeah, she's really aggressive. I mean, she's got great physicality when she's with the ball. She can't be bumped off of it. I mean, and that's the number one thing as a ball handler. When you're facing up the defender, facing at the basket, attacking downhill, pushing towards the hoop, you're on the offensive side. You're forcing the defense to get on their heels. She does a really good job with that. I mean, she's a score-first player, so she's not always looking necessarily to make that extra pass, but you can't blame her. I mean, with what she's averaging, 14 points a game, you can't be upset with that. It looks like, so here we go. This is our half court offense here. It looks like, we got defense here in blue, circles. This is what the 2-3 looks like. And so it's a lot similar to the 2-3 that I talked about in the men's game a little while ago. It's just a little bit different setup. So you're guarding spaces. So rather than you're guarding a person, but you're sort of guarding the person that's in your area. And so this is sort of what it would look like. Like these are your zones of the areas you guard, and it depends a little bit based off of where these people are. So if you see down here, there's two. I think Oberlin are running like a 1-4 high. So they have Gina up top, up here, and then they run their 4 players down here. And then what they do is Gina sort of comes to one side as the defense sort of shift in this shape towards her. She throws a ball over top, which is where we've seen a couple of steals come in because those passes haven't come with the zip they need to get across the court. What they do is they zip the ball over here, and then they sort of flood this space, and you can sort of set up screens where you screen the person, even though technically they're not necessarily guarding a player. So Oberlin kind of looking to move, shift this zone, get some people out of position, and then overload a space, pass the ball quickly. That's where we saw Allison get a nice little jumper. But for the most part, I think the zone's been pretty effective because it scores 4-4. Elmira just kind of need to figure out how to score themselves because neither team's really been able to put the ball to the hoop very well.
Yeah, I got to remember, too, especially for this Oberlin side, guys, coming off a really, really long layoff before yesterday, the last game being all the way back on December 6th. So, over 3 weeks. It took them a little while to get going yesterday, and, it was a 3-point game at half with Oberlin trailing before kind of erupting in that third quarter and settling in there to pull out that victory yesterday. So still maybe a little bit of rust here on both sides coming off the long holiday break.
I think something that this Oberlin team will be hoping to see, coming in now from this break is kind of a bit of a reset. Obviously lofty expectations for them after the playoff run last year, and had a couple early struggles earlier in the year against opponents that they probably felt they should have beat. But I'm hoping, at least from our perspective, that this little reset can get them going, especially as they move into conference play here coming up.
Yeah, conference play starting on Wednesday at Worcester. So, yeah, one final tune-up here and then try to kick it into gear like you said, John.
Yeah, I mean, you have a success like that in last year's season. They're going to play tougher non-conference opponents, which I think is a little bit why we're seeing a little bit of the struggles they've had. They earned a lot of respect. They got a lot of attention last year, and their schedule is going to reflect that. Conference play, I think, will be good for them. It's closer games, more comfortable opponents. Little bit of bitter rivalries. Nobody likes Ohio Wesleyan or Worcester or Kenyon. I can't imagine. I don't know how they actually get students admitted there, considering how much people don't like them. So that'll be nice to sort of lean back on those rivalries a little bit and get something to fire you up.
Do you guys have any basketball background in your youth days there, John or Max?
So I was just about to say I played a little bit of pickup basketball recently, first time in about a year, and I've really developed an appreciation for what the women and the men can do day in and day out. I wrestled for most of my my middle school and high school career, and I have no ability on the court. But there are two guys in this group chat who do, and John and Jack.
So Max's recent experience with the pickup basketball was similar to mine. We played with our baseball teammates, and I am equally terrible as Max at least in my own basketball skill. I was similar to Max. I did a little wrestling earlier in my life, and I also played a lot of ice hockey. So I was never quite the basketball star that Jack was. But Max and I did recently come to this newfound appreciation for everyone else who plays all this basketball and had some success, because I just have absolutely no feel for it. But I'll let Jack discuss this a little bit in our last YoCast. But Jack, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the praise you two give me, but I don't know if it's deserved here. I mean, when you're coming out of the barren cornfield wasteland of northern Wisconsin, I'm not sure anybody could be considered a star. But I mean, yeah, I played in high school. I played pretty much all 4 years. Played youth as well. So I played basketball for 10 years or so, and I love it. I still play pickup a lot, and it's a lot of fun. I would probably get bounced off either of these courts pretty quickly, if nothing else, just because my endurance is not there. I mean, after about 45 seconds, I'd need a sub. But there's a little bit of history there. Oh, we got a little bit of a three-quarter press coming, looking to maybe throw Oberlin off their game a little bit.
Looks like it's worked there.
I mean, when your coach is wearing a shirt like this, you have to expect that he's just going to throw a bunch of different stuff at you. He clearly is, I don't want to say being held together by the seams, but, he's still trying to figure some things out.
He's been a little animated, too, talking to the ref, I think, a lot. Definitely. Maybe it's a motivational tactic, though. You never know.
Yeah. I think the players probably gauge how well they're doing based off of the shade of red he is. Might be going a little bit of the Tiger Woods red polo good luck charm here, maybe, but I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, guys, definitely a slow start here for both sides with a 6-4 scoreline. Oberlin 2 of 12 and Elmira 2 of 8 from the floor so far. Oberlin also 0 of 7 from long range there. So hopefully things pick up a little bit on both ends, really, in the second quarter here as we work our way through these final minutes of the first.
And Oberlin only shoot 27% from three. Elmira happy to sit in this zone, defend the paint, knowing Oberlin have some really good forward players that like to get in there and score, letting them take their chances with Oberlin hucking stuff right there again. I mean, I think we've taken 4 or 5 threes from there with about the same result. So now they're going, it looks more like to a 2-3. You see that 13 for Elmira. That's Taylor Albrecht sitting down right in there in that zone, right in the half arc. Even more packing into the paint, looking to force Oberlin to take some shots. Lucky to hit a 3 there, though. Maybe this knocks the lid off the rim.
Yeah, getting some nice production from the freshman there, Anna Lee off the bench, and she's given a nice little spark of energy, as is Lily, the other first year on the team, Lily Namolsky, if I say that correctly, I think. So yeah, so that's been a nice little combo, along with Angela Kumler as well, who provides a little bit of length for Oberlin. So nice young trio there of first years for Coach Dunmeyer off the bench, and then. We kind of touched on it a little bit too, fellas, of the big three that John mentioned, coming back as all conference players of Gina, Bree, and Camille. So, kind of have that nucleus together. The current Oberlin team has some high hopes, and also the future Oberlin team is with them all being underclassmen.
Jack,
one of the biggest strengths of this team coming into this year was that not only was there this core, but they were all young and could all have big opportunities to improve. So, it's an exciting time with this team. Sorry, Max, go ahead.
Jack, tell me more about this Roy G. Biv that you were saying. I want to hear you reiterate that.
Yeah, so the Roy G. Biv, the color wheel or whatever, the main color. She's got the ball right now, Desiree Roy, 24. Roy stands for her last name, flat shot. That's how I'm going in. Go, go, go! And charge. Oh, no. So the Roy stands for Desiree Roy. The G stands for you gotta. Implore your players, you gotta. And then the B stands for bother. She's the top scorer. The ball is going to be in her hands a lot. Bother her. The I stands for no inside. Force her to stay out of the paint, take these mid-range shots, take these, 16, 18 footers, see if she can extend her range. And then the V is voracious. You got to really come after. I think if you knock her and have her be uncomfortable,
like they're doing right now,
the rest of the team is going to struggle. As we see Allison getting on the floor here, diving after it. I'm wondering if we could get a little bit of the Oberlin bench and the Elmira bench too. They're doing a little bit more structured cheers. I'm wondering if we can get a little bit more dugout style, little jawing going on here. From the Oberlin side. I'm wondering if that might be a little bit more beneficial.
Well, we don't need any, technical fouls there, Jack. That we on the last YoCast from the men's game, if you remember, we got a bench technical that went in Wabash's favor. That kind of was a turning point in that game there when Wabash came back in the second half to pull out the victory over Oberlin. So we got to keep it in check.
We were kind of confused at the time as to what was going on during that game. We were because there was a stoppage and then a tech was given out and we didn't see anything on the floor, so we were a little confused on the last Yocast with that. But yeah, that was definitely a turning point in that Wabash game.
I never received a technical foul, but one game I my number was incorrectly recorded, so I actually received 8 fouls in one game instead of 5.
Oof.
I didn't realize until 2 minutes into the fourth quarter when they gave, I was number 25, and they'd given a third foul to number 23, but we didn't have a 23. And so I got to play a full game with 7 fouls, and when I got my 8th, they finally figured it out and kindly escorted me to the bench.
We have a seasoned veteran of multiple numbers in our Zoom call right now. Max wore both number 20 and number 24 last year for the baseball team, right? Was it 20, Max?
That was painful.
Well, it was
20 and
24.
20 and 24.
Why?
They mix up.
We something happened with our gray jersey, and Max was rocking something else when we wore the road grays.
Bury a 3-pointer right at the death there of the first quarter. That's a good showing there. Oberlin are going to start with a 6-point lead, matching those keys to victory.
Yeah, Gina right there, I think, had 4 triple hits yesterday, so good sign to see her connect from long range there. And there's another person that also has double jerseys this year is Gina. Has to wear 0 at home, Sammy Spanier's old number, and 24 on the road is, I think someone walked away with her home white. So, just kind of disappeared from Logan's cage back there. So we'll have to track down that mystery another time.
It's Jordan-esque almost with the number 45, right? Give a little Michael Jordan when he had to wear 45 that one time.
I think that, use that little bit of good luck going, but I think 45 is probably a huge jersey, would be my guess.
Yeah.
So 6 total field goals in that opening quarter there, guys. Oberlin finished 4 of 15 for 26.7%. Elmira 2 of 11 for 18.2%. So Oberlin also with 9 defensive rebounds, 6 for Elmira. That was one of your keys, Jack. And then 5 offensive rebounds for Oberlin and just 2 for Elmira. So that's a key going into the game, and they did a good job of handling that on the glass in that first quarter.
And we see here both teams have 5 turnovers. The big difference here, Elmira 0 points off those turnovers. Oberlin 7 of their 12 come off those turnovers. So that's a big thing. You saw those mostly on fast break points, before this zone can get set up. And they're kind of going a 2-1-2 here offensive look against this 2-3. Get Camille in the center, have her pull in one of these wings so that this over-the-top pass can be a little bit more open. See it slung over the top there. Those passes got to come with a lot of zip. They can't be too high where it's over the head. They can't be too low where defenders can throw their hands up. It's a tough pass to throw. And as a defense, you're fine letting those go off because, especially in Division III college ball, more often than not, that's not going to be a line drive pass that's going to be right on the money.
I think you got to be happy so far if you're Oberlin. You have a pretty cold start shooting wise, and to still have a lead and to be doing such a great job defensively. I think, all things considered, even with the cold shooting start, I think it's a pretty good place to be. And obviously, we'll hope that they'll get a little hot, going into the second half here, as like they did a night ago. So all positive signs so far.
Oh nope, we're not gonna count that.
Didn't count it
off the bat.
Can't count if it hits the shot clock. They should just move
hit the shot clock.
You know what I mean? Get him off the court. Why is he get him off? I guess I can't say.
Trying to debut that nice, pretty shirt too much, and you'd expect someone with such pizzazz on the court to have some pizzazz in the tactic room, right?
I mean, yeah, they normally looks like what they do is they run a 3-2 the first 5 minutes, and they switch to a 2-3 in the second 5 minutes, trying to keep Oberlin on their sort of back heel in terms of defensively what they're looking at, which is a good idea. But I mean, he should spend a little bit more time on the offensive side because they're shooting 15% from the field. It's a pretty bad look. Is this the first time out of the game?
What kind of adjustment, Jack, does that take from the coach when you see that switch in zone midway through a quarter?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a timeout. Come in and talk about it. You've scouted this team. You know that they probably have a couple different zone defensive looks. You've seen other teams throughout the year run a 2-3 or a 3-2 zone, so you have an offensive set against it. So it's just about keeping your players aware, and maybe those first couple possessions being really intentional about calling a play, letting your players go through their motions of getting used to knowing where the defensive players are going to be, getting the ball in their hands in an intentional way for a shot so that they can feel comfortable in this different look, which maybe they've tried. It looks like they've tried a little bit with some set plays, but the shots just haven't fallen. But Elmira seemed to be definitely the more uncomfortable team when they're on offense. I mean, they kind of just give the ball to Desiree or pass it around until the shot clock winds down and shoot something.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this at the top, Jack. I mean, just one person in double figures in Desiree, and then a little bit more balance. You have, 4 or 5 different players averaging between 4 and 4.8 points per game. So they are a little bit more balanced in terms of where they're scoring production from. But the last three games or so has not been good for Elmira, scoring the basketball. 54 points, 23 points against St. John's Fisher, and just 44 points yesterday against Hiram. So definitely in a little bit of a shooting funk right now are the Elmira Eagles.
In a shooting slump for sure, and giving up and ones is no way to try to get out of that. I mean, they haven't scored in almost the first 3 minutes of the second quarter, and they pull out their leading scorer. Their substitution pattern with her is really interesting. She almost seems to spend more time on the bench than she does on the floor.
Really good ball movement, I thought, on that possession, guys. I think Oberlin getting a little more comfortable. We talked earlier about that long layoff they had for break, and maybe it is just a feeling out process. Getting into these games, but much better on that last possession. Swinging the ball around and finding an open shot, and ultimately the M1.
And there were 2 moments there where Jaden and Maggie, 21 and 3, both could have taken, relatively speaking, sort of open looks from the arc. But, shots haven't been falling. I think it's really smart of both of them to pass those up, try to get the ball inside, break down this defense. Again, another and one. You see Jaden faking that 3, pulling the defender out. Ooh!
Waved it off with a travel call. I don't know about that there, Jack.
I mean, that should have just happened right away. It's a late travel call if that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know when they're saying the travel happened, but if it happened off the start of the dribble, they shouldn't have let her go all the way in and shoot.
Can you explain the travel rule in depth while we're at it?
Yeah, so when you get the ball, if you have not set your pivot foot, you can step with either foot. Once you've set a pivot foot, which a pivot foot is a foot that you keep on the ground and you're not allowed to step with, almost as if you pivot like this. You're allowed to step like that. If you've dribbled, you can pick up the ball and take 2 steps. If you take more than 2 steps, it's considered a travel. And unless you haven't set your dribble, you can't like grab the ball, take 2 steps, and start dribbling. You have to dribble to initiate your ability to move. So that when there's a situation where somebody catches the ball and they haven't dribbled yet, and then they start to go, and there's a travel call, it's usually because they've taken too many steps before they've started dribbling. If the travel call is at the end of the situation, it's because they've taken too many steps after they've stopped dribbling. You rarely see the switched pivot foot travel call, mostly because it's second nature for a basketball player to know their pivot foot, but also even if they do it, a referee's got more important things to pay attention to than if you switched your pivot foot, so you never see that one.
Yeah, guys, we're going on over 8 minutes now of Elmira being stuck on 6 points, a pair of Taylor Young free throws with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. This is the last points that they've had, and we're already almost at the midway point out here of the second quarter. So this Yo Women defense is just shut them down.
And I gotta love that if you're Coach
We're going to get Coach
right
Thiel
now.
on here in a minute too, fellas. I think we're going to get Coach Thiel on here in a minute.
All right. He himself is an avid being on the court type of presence. So I'm curious to ask him what he feels about this coach's on the court presence here.
They're on the road right now, correct?
No. They just played yesterday, and then at home. The student section was missing you guys, let's say the least. It was pretty much empty the entire game.
Did they have the band out there? Did they have the band?
No band. We were going old school off the phone. Yeah, just that's a little tough one. Double overtime loss there.
I think early this year, I think both teams have really had great fan sections. At least when everyone was on campus, there've been that whole side of the bleachers has really been filling up this year. I think the women's team's massive success last year, and then all the excitement around the men's program has really gotten people excited about these teams this year. I felt like great crowds at every game I've been at, so pretty cool so far.
Really good presence. If this is, I know you got to be conservative with your timeouts because you might need them in the future if the game gets close. But I got to say, Elmira's coach has, I think, not utilized his timeouts effectively at all. Not only can they be used a way to stop a good run from another team, but as you'd said, Mike, like they went about 8.5 minutes almost without scoring a point. Call a timeout at some point in there and just let your players breathe for a second. Let them, sit down, reflect, get all that junk out of their head, and go back in a little bit fresh. He's sort of just leaving them out there to, making them figure it out themselves. And it's good as a coach to let your players do that, let them build adversity. But if you start to realize they're not going to be able to do it themselves, call a timeout and throw them a lifeline.
John knows a thing or two about a coach who can use a timeout poorly. I'm very adamant about using those timeouts correctly and to help your play.
One of the all-time worst clock management coaches in the NFL just lost his job a couple of weeks ago. So, rest in peace, the Bronco tenure of Nathaniel Hackett. We'll miss
Packers OC. He was great at that job.
Yeah, some people, aren't cut out to have to deal with important things like timeouts and winning football games. So.
Well, now
we have Coach Thiel here, guys, now from head men's basketball coach here in the office today, grinding his coach. How we doing?
Good, man. We just had a light practice today. Now, good to see the women up big, I see.
Yeah, nice start here, 22-6. It was a slow first quarter for both sides offensively, but Coach Dunmire's bunch has settled in here as Elmira has gone ice cold now for almost 10 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, Coach, you came in when it was interesting. You should have seen that first quarter.
Yeah, well, I missed the first quarter. We're coming out of practice. Cold shooting by both teams?
Yeah, I believe it was 12-6.
Gee.
Total field goals on 6 total field goals.
Yeah.
Well, looks like Coach Dunmire has it turned on right now.
Yeah. So one thing we've noticed, and I don't know, I think I've seen it from you once or twice in the home games. It's Elmira's coach has a little bit of a tendency to find himself on the court, either when his team's playing defense or offense. I was wondering, is that just something that, you're so in the game, you're talking to your players, you're trying to get the ear of the ref for a second. Is that just something you kind of is happening? What happens in those situations?
Well, for me, personally, it's because my voice doesn't echo. So no one can hear me. So I just have to get on the court to make sure someone hears me. Otherwise, I might as well just sit down and not say anything.
Yeah, you've seen it in college football when they get those big signs on the sideline to call plays and stuff. Do you think can we get some of those?
I think we got to do that. I think we might be the first basketball team to break out the big signs with the part of my take logo and everything.
Yeah.
Only way to exactly.
If you get Deemy's face, if he's smiling, it means one play. If he's frowning, it means another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should definitely do that. Yeah, man. Because my assistants make fun of me. No one can hear me. If I yell, my voice doesn't echo. It just cracks.
We gotta get you a megaphone, coach.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing we've seen from Elmira is it seems like in the first half, and I think they've stuck with it this quarter. But in the first half of the quarter, they were running a 3-2. They switched to a 2-3. They're back now to the 3-2, and I think they've stuck with it. Um, you know, when you're looking to switch zone sets like that, what's the reason for that? Is it just give the offense a different look so they're more uncomfortable?
So usually when teams change defenses and play a lot of defenses is because they want to make the offense uncomfortable and just kind of keep the offense out of rhythm. Like in our game yesterday, that actually exactly happened where Penn State Altoona started off playing man-to-man defense, and I thought we were playing pretty well. And then they went into a zone and kind of took us out of rhythm and really kind of hurt us in the second half. So usually when coaches switch defenses a ton, it's to kind of keep the offense on his toes and just kind of not letting them comfortable at any certain look or any certain read that they might be having success with.
And do you have a preference on what zone you think is it is it the Syracuse 2-3? Do you like a 1-3-1? Is it a 3-2? What sort of zone look?
So we actually don't play we don't play any zone. Like my teams throughout my head coaching career have we really I've never played a possession of zone, and part of it is I just think like if you play multiple defenses, it's tough to get really good at any one defense. So we're just kind of getting better and better at playing our man-to-man defense. But I think the 3-2 is really really hard to play against, and a big part, like a reason for that is if you have if you have like a smaller guard like we do, the 3-2 takes up so much space in the perimeter that's tough to like zip the ball around. And like our Yuki Akubo is unbelievable, but I've seen a smaller guard, so that kind of hurts us a little bit there.
And I imagine too having three defenders out near the wing, near the perimeter on the arc like that makes it a little bit harder to initiate a dribble drive situation.
Exactly, and that's where we're really good is if we can get like Yuki going downhill, and then we can spread him out with shooters like Demi and Georgie and Will Basquet, and with the three guys up top, like it obviously takes away some driving lanes as well. So that I think like a 3-2 is pretty tough. I think 2-3, if you can get the right spacing, you can get some good shots, but the 3-2 makes it more difficult for sure.
And we even saw, one possession. I think it was just a surprise to maybe, as you said, throw over and off the rim. We saw like a 3-quarter, like 1-3-1 sort of press situation. You got any opinions on a full court press?
Yeah, I mean, I should think like it's with our women's personnel might be a decent idea. My guess is what Elmira did, and this is me just starting to watch the game in the second quarter. My guess is Elmira doesn't think they can get stops with how well Oberlin's playing, so they're just trying to throw whatever out there and seeing like if they can find anything right now. Because like I think the way the second quarter is almost gone, that nothing they're doing is really succeeding. So they're just trying to find an answer right now.
I mean, it seems that way. They've successfully scored, but if it keeps this way, it's going to be 3 points for the whole quarter.
Exactly. Yeah.
John, you got anything?
Yeah, another thing, I think we were just talking about a second ago, Coach, was, especially on the Elmira side, there's been some kind of weird usage of timeouts. When your team's struggling, what do you think, what's generally your strategy on when to use timeouts and when to let your team kind of just feel it out and get back to the game?
It's really, really hard, man, because like you got to weigh out in an ideal world, I always try to keep 4 timeouts for the last 5 minutes of the game because you just never know what's going to happen in a close game. But then obviously if your team is giving up a huge run, you also want to stop the momentum and kind of keep the game close because there's no point of saving a timeout if the game isn't going to be close in the end of the game. So I think it's a really fine balance. Like there's been times where I've used a timeout couple times really early in the game because I didn't think we came out sharp, and then but we had to do it to keep the game close. Like we did that against Otterbein, but it's definitely one of the mental debates that we have as coaches. Like when is the right time to use a timeout, especially when your team is not playing great early. And I promise you, the Elmira coach is kind of going through the same tribulations right there. Is where I'm sure he wanted to save his timeouts, but he knew that if he didn't use the timeouts now, that game might not ever stay close. And at that point, who cares about the timeouts?
Is there sort of like whether or not it's a debate amongst the coaches or something that you internally with yourself sort of like contemplate of, if it's a run coming from the other team, am I going to give the players 3 possessions to see if they can steady the ship? and then if they can, I'm a jump in here with a timeout. Or do you
Yeah,
have
so
like internal conversations?
yeah, so the internal conversation I'm really looking at is like the shot quality. So if we're getting like good shots and we're just not making shots and we're playing good defense and they're just making some shots, or we're getting great shots and they're just getting out in transition because we're missing, I may not call a timeout because I think we're executing well. We just got to make the shots and there's nothing a timeout's going to do for that. But then like if we came out and we turned the ball over 3 straight times or whatever, at that point we're not executing well, so I might call a timeout to kind of get everything reset, draw something up, get guys looking at different reads that I wanted to look at. So it's not necessarily the scoring run itself. Is more, are we generating good shots or not? Is the other team generating good shots or not? And that's kind of the internal thing we're thinking about.
Coach, so now in your first year here, talk about your relationship working with Coach Dunmeyer and how that's been so far.
Oh, Steph's the best. Super easy to work with, and obviously she's done an unbelievable job kind of building her program to now where they're always going to be one of the favorites, one of the best teams in the NCAC. And as a staff that's kind of trying to do the exact same thing that she's been able to accomplish in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been able to kind of pick her brain, talk to her, kind of use her as someone I can lean upon, and she's been unbelievable. Obviously, you guys know her. She's a great person. She's super helpful, and I could not be happier. Like we use her as a resource, and we're super fortunate to have her just right next door.
Coach, I think one last question before we roll into halftime here. How often are you rolling into the? Oh, I'm on mute. Coach, one last question here before we roll into halftime. How often are you rolling into the West Gym looking for some maybe side eye recruiting? Maybe just seeing someone who's practicing some pickup basketball and really wowing the coaching staff.
Listen, I'm not doing that often, but what I am looking for is trying to go through the West Gym and find some pickup games. Like I got to get back in shape, man. So if there's any pickup games, I'll definitely hop in.
Well, I'm sure Jack would take you up on that offer, but
yeah, be careful with that, Coach. I mean, I've got a short list, but I do keep a list in my notebook of ankles I have taken.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, Coach,
make things uncomfortable going to basketball games if you're in my notebook. So
I'm in, man. Let's play.
All right, great.
Thank you for joining us, Coach. We're had a great first half for the Yeomen, and we'll be rolling into halftime, taking a short break here. We'll keep this up and keep with us and join us for the second half. Thank you again, Coach.
Of course, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
Of course.
We're here for a little bit of halftime analysis. We've got an avid viewer dedicated to his craft, first-time caller, and dedicated glasses wearer, Ryan Buck, in to give us his thoughts in the game. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to finally have one of our most dedicated viewers getting his chance to, provide his thoughts on it. So, you obviously watched every second of this half. What'd you think? Looking at Elmira, looking at Oberlin, you can see the stats here on the broadcast. What do you think?
Yeah, I have been having an absolute blast watching this Oberlin team just physically dominate this Elmira basketball team. You see it on the boards. Especially the offensive boards. That's where you really see it. We need to start seeing those shots fall in. Our 3-point game, not great. Haven't made one yet. But we're taking smart shots. We're taking good shots. They're the open shots. They're just not falling. So we need to start getting it in the paint, using that physicality to our advantage. Because we're dominating them in defense and we're dominating on the boards, we need to transfer that into the paint, keep physical in all aspects of the game, make that a halftime adjustment since those 3-point shots are not falling. But it's been great to watch. It's been just a physically dominant performance.
Yeah, I mean, you started to see it a little bit at the end of that second quarter where things were clicking a little bit for Oberlin. But, I mean, it's one of the big drawbacks of running a zone defense is rebounding. You're not specifically guarding a person, so when the shot goes up, you're not always near a person to box them out. So unmarked offenders can crash the boards, grab something, kick it back out. That's where you see 11-2 offensive rebounds for Oberlin. Throw it over to Schooner here. Having a salad at halftime, staying energized. What do you got?
Yeah, I am energized after that salad, Jack. Feeling great now. But yeah, almost as energized as the Yo women were on the offensive glass there that half, huh? I mean, like, really, Jack, you pointed it out. Like, the rebound battle was really going to be the thing that was going to put the Yo women over the top here, and it's really rung true here in the first half. I think, as Ryan said, we'd like to see the shooting get a little bit hotter here, but, just the physical advantage that they have so far is, really putting us in a good spot here in the second half. It'll be interesting to see, if Elmira makes some adjustments to try to, make this lead a little slimmer. But, if you're Coach Dunmire, I think you want more of the same with a little bit of more efficiency from the field. But, mostly good from my end, I think, from the Young, even after a rocky start.
Yeah, I think you're right. A rocky start turned into sort of a strong end here, a little bit of a snowball effect. For the second half, Ryan, what are you seeing? What do you think are the keys to a strong second half?
Yeah, so we definitely just need to start getting that touch and feel. We're very strong, like I was saying before. We're being physical on the boards and on defense, but we need to get that touch back, and that's kind of one of the things that I think that could allow Elmira to get back in this game. We need them. I'm struggling for the words here. We need to get that touch back, and that's something I wanted to ask you. If you're having a good game, you're feeling good, dominating, you're up 24-11 at half, but you're not having that touch and feel at the arc with your shots. You're just not quite feeling soft with your hands. Is there something that you would do at half to try and get that feel back so you can make that adjustment, or do you just adjust the overall game plan?
It'd be both, I think. I think I'd adjust the game plan. I would probably the first 3 offensive possessions run my 3 best plays that
Good job.
are, A, B, C, 3 best plays. Run them, make the shot or miss them. Players know it like they know the back of their hand. And then I would do my halftime talk, but you're up by double digits. I'd get my players out early. I'd get them on the court, and I'd have them take the shots that they're most comfortable with. Find their hot spots, have them hit a shot in each of those hot spots before the game starts up again. See one go down. That's a huge difference, And then when you get in the game, not have these plays be for 3-pointers, but try to get layups. Try to get easy little dink and dunk shots, the high percentage looks, and then go strong into this half.
Well,
you saw that there. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Max.
Well, I would like to thank Ryan for calling in. That's fantastic to see the viewers really participate. And also, thank you to our YouTubers who are asking constant questions and getting productive in the live chat. That's very helpful and fun to see. Question in here was for Ryan. What do you think could go wrong in the second half? Well, I think with such a lead as we have right now, I think slipping at all here could be what would go wrong. I'm not quite sure how that would go tactically. I think maybe if the coach came out with an even brighter shirt, we might be in trouble. Our next guest is going to be Oliver Rips. He'll be joining us somewhere along in this third quarter. But we've gotten underway, and Jack, could you speak, or John, either of you speak to what could potentially go wrong?
I'll throw that one to John.
I think you said it, Max, and I think this is true in any type of sport when there's a really big lead and you feel like you've really dominated, especially like the Yo women did in the second quarter, is just getting complacent. You can easily see that second quarter and how Elmira had such a difficulty scoring and say, we can just go in and have a decent second half and roll out of here with a victory. But you really got to keep your foot on the gas. I think, I can give a nice football example from a couple weeks ago. We saw a 27-0 lead for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Denver Broncos. And, that game ended up being a one-score game at the very end. Turnovers from the Chiefs and, letting just an inferior team get back into it. So, you want to avoid that complacency that we see even at the highest levels here from the Yo women.
Yeah, guys, and just a matter of being consistent. And we've seen this Oberlin team that they've gone cold before. Just a couple games ago before the break, they had a 13-point fourth quarter lead against Penn State Barron, and that's a game that goes to overtime and then they lose. They didn't score for 9 minutes, so it's never over until it's actually over. So just like you said, keep the pressure on, keep shooting. You found a little bit of offensive flow in that second quarter and just try to keep it up and and finish the job. And that's something that this team has traditionally done pretty well for the most part. And hopefully that we don't have any crazy endings like we did before the break there.
It's the last thing we want.
Joining us now, Oliver Rips. Oliver, describe your position on the men's basketball team.
How's it going, guys? Good to be on. Yeah, so I'm the men's basketball manager. So pretty much helping out with day-to-day stuff. I saw Shiva was on here earlier. I'm a big fan of his, kind of trying to do whatever I can to help out the coaching staff and the team.
Now I know that you yourself have been trying to get in the gym more, work on your shot, work on your touch, work on some things, increase your vertical and stuff. So, looking at where you've seen your areas of improvement, what do you think are the most difficult things to master as a basketball player?
It's a great question. I think the way I'm going to be approaching the game, the way I do every day, is very different from someone playing at this level. So I'm more worried about just having fun out there and getting better. But for the women's team and the men's team, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different level of perfecting your craft and there's just such levels to this, watching the women and the men in the gym getting up shots and shooting on the gun. It's just a pleasure to watch the talent that we have here at Oberlin.
And Oliver, I assume you've been following along here. How have you think the game's been going for the Yo women?
Watching the Yo-Cast stream, I think the Yo women have looked great, especially defensively. As you've touched on, Elmira just having trouble getting quality shots and here now the Yo women trying to just, have a strong third quarter. They're a third quarter team. It's been that case that way, all year. The third quarter, they're kind of like the 2017 Golden State Warriors. They keep it close, and then in the third quarter just blow the game up. So I think here's a chance for them to really push their lead and hopefully make the game not really too competitive heading into the fourth.
Oliver, I'll ask this to you and Jack. So what is your preference? If you realize the men's college game is the only game in the world where they play 2 20-minute halves and then the women play 4 quarters. So and everyone else in high school plays 4 quarters. What do you like? It doesn't really matter.
That's a great question. I'm a huge fan of the college game. Kind of grew up watching a lot of men's college basketball. So I'm pretty comfortable with the 20-minute half format. But I would say the quarters are just kind of the true form of basketball. So no, that's not a great answer, but I do kind of like that the men's college basketball game has its own unique style.
I think the Habs are stupid. I don't know why they do it. You play quarters from third grade through high school, and then if you make it overseas or you make it to the NBA, you go back to quarters. I don't understand why college basketball thinks that they have this ability to just do a different version of basketball. So I think.
Watching this Yeoman game right now, we just saw that travel there called, but I'm really impressed by Bree's ability to kind of facilitate from the post. We know how good of a post player she can be, and the offense kind of runs through her. But just seeing, the double comes in there and she finds an open perimeter player. I've been really impressed by that this season. I think that's a big jumping point that she's made this offseason.
And she hasn't been shooting well today, but that doesn't mean that they still should be getting the ball. She can still do things of value outside of that. Some other players on this team have found their stroke a little bit from the mid-range and the outside, so getting the ball to her, letting her distribute, she can still add something of value. But she's done that a couple times here where we saw her get the ball in the post and maybe just like rush a shot a little bit, half a second earlier than she maybe should have taken it.
Yeah, the thing is, when you have a player like Bree who's putting up the numbers that she is every day, teams really create their game plan around it. And I know that there's often a similar thing with Georgie and Demi for the men's team, but teams are trying to figure out any way to stop Bree. So if Bree can just know that and use the double teams and the game plan against them and help find other players, there's such a strong supporting cast around her. So it really is sometimes a testament to how good of a player is when the game plan is clearly trying to stop them and they can utilize that to find other people.
You really got to like what they do with the high-low action too there, Oliver, with Camille and Bree with their distribution inside and outside is really, really strong and something you don't see very often at this level, especially on the women's side, of how good of distributors they really are going inside and outside. And we all know about Camille's passing ability. He had a couple triple-doubles last year, and then, more in that point forward role that she can do, and that just prevents so much mismatch problems with her physicality and her size too. With that being a combination of Camille, Bree, and then you have your traditional guards with Gina and Allison. So a really nice rounded roster that this team has.
So Oliver, we were talking New Year's resolutions earlier in the broadcast. So I'll give you two. First, what's your New Year's resolution, and then second, what do you think would be a good New Year's resolution for the Oberlin men's basketball team?
That's a great question.
Great question. I'm going to add a third. I'm going to give my take on the New Year's resolution for the women's team as well. But
Perfect.
My New Year's resolution is to dunk basketball in the main gym. Gotten some decent progress getting there, but hopefully by the time I can graduate this spring, I'll be able to put back one dunk. So it's a little ambitious, but that's the plan.
For you need the trampoline? You're going to get you the trampoline out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm closer than you'd think, knowing me. I'm up at the rim. I can dunk a tennis ball. So maybe just a little bit more time in the gym. But for the men's team, I think figuring out how to, close games down the stretch. The whole team has been really impressive this year. We're 4-8, but we've led more minutes than been down. And so when you're that kind of team, just figuring out how to win, Coach Deal is big on, creating a culture where winning is expected and winning is kind of second nature. And so as that comes along into the kind of the meat of conference play, I think the men's team will have a good time, and just ultimately be able to close those games and get some more conference wins in. And once that starts happening and the confidence is high, everything flips, and hopefully heading into the NCAC tournament and possibly the NCAA tournament, you just want to be comfortable winning and comfortable closing out games. And then for the women's team, I see they've definitely taken sort of a branding and approach that this is a new season for them. I see it written on their practice plans. I see them talking about it ever since they've gotten back from break. They had like a month off. Not a great start to the season for them, and by any standard of a normal program, it would be a great start. But I know how high the expectations they have for themselves are. So I know that they want to kind of start fresh with this new opportunity and heading into conference play, and hopefully, the sky is really the limit for this team. I see them being an NCAC winner. I see them making a run in an NCAA tournament. Like they really are just about as good of a program as you can get in terms of women's basketball.
I would agree. I mean, they hold themselves to a high standard, and there's a lot of outside expectations, I think, that do play into that a little bit. But, this the best programs put the most pressure on themselves rather than letting the outside pressure be the factor.
As Maggie Balderstone hits a great three there. Awesome to see them get going off the bench and stretching the lead to 17 here in the third quarter.
Yeah, Maggie provides a nice spark off the bench for them, Oliver. We talked about that front five rotation a little bit, but they also have some players who can come in and fill some minutes off the bench as well. And we're seeing that second unit kind of out there right now.
Yeah, it's funny you say some. To me, it's there's got to be 15 people on this roster that can contribute just about any school in the country. So I guess that's a testament to recruiting, player development, all sorts of things from the program. But as we see another three rain in, it's just like top to bottom, this roster can shoot, can handle the ball, can play good defense. It's very impressive. You don't see that very often.
Time out to stop the bleeding there.
Anyone who's in the chat right now is welcome to drop their New Year's resolutions in the live YouTube chat. We're going on quite the run right now. 20-point lead. Is it too early to put some icing on this game, or?
We gotta wait till the fourth quarter at least, Max.
Yeah, as I said about that depth, this is the kind of game where hopefully you can get some young players or some players that don't see the court as much and increase that depth, because the best way to develop players is get them in live games and get them reps. In-game situation reps are key.
I think we're seeing a little bit of Oberlin here playing down to the level of the competition. Elmira have yet to crack more than 10 points in a single quarter. The most they've gotten is 6. That was the first quarter, so they've actually scored less points in consecutive quarters since the game has gone on. Oberlin have remained at about 12, and as we've said, they have not been shooting great, but they should be beating this team by they're beating it by 20, they should be beating this team by like 35. So they're playing down in the competition right now, which is okay. A win is a win. I'm not going to call the game off yet, but certainly a strong lead here regardless of that. But, I mean, it's not necessarily boding too well for Oberlin in the future if this is how strong a 3-2 zone disrupts their play. Teams are going to disregard the scoreline and see that, I think, give them trouble.
Yeah, I think with every game there's something to improve on, but I might push back a little bit on thinking this is not a great performance from the OM. And, anytime you hold a team to 13 points in, almost heading into the fourth quarter, that's a success. And they definitely have played some games this year where they've let other teams dictate the pace and played this kind of frenzy, full court transition game, and that's just not really where they want to be. So being able to get back and set their shell and run their half-court offense, you're always going to have lower scoring games, and obviously there's always things to improve on, but coming off a game yesterday, I think this is a pretty impressive performance from the Yo women.
Yeah, you see Angela leak out right there, and that's so now that's our 10th different scorer, guys. 10 different Yo women have scored. You just touched on that depth there, Oliver, and you're seeing it now with a diverse scoring attack, and not like you said, none of the numbers are big for any individual, but when you have 10 different people on the stat sheet, on the scoring column, that's always a good sign.
So Jack would be doing suicides in the next practice. Well, Oliver, you'd be taking the team to Chipotle right after. Definitely a difference in coaching styles. I'd like to see you two match up against each other someday in the future as two head coaches.
Yeah, Oliver would be having his players wearing false noses and sitting on whoopee cushions. I don't know if that's my coaching style.
Yeah, well, I think the key as we see another three-pointer come in, it's about understanding what happened and the goods and the bads from every game. There's no film session that Coach Dunmire runs where there's not critiques. I see Coach Joe meeting with individual players every day in the gym to discuss footwork, really minute things. So you're always going to have criticism from games and learning things and lessons, but also it's important to come out of games being happy with what went well, especially you're on the road 2 straight days as Gina hits another 3. There's no reason to take a negative outlook to a win like this. I mean, it's too early to say it's a win already, but assuming the score holds, always good to keep your team happy with how things are going, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with you. I just think that, Elmira feel to have rolled over a little bit, exposing their belly, sort of, foregoing the conclusion of a loss here. But if we look at the game, I think we're still fighting in it. They're running a 2-3 now, which Oberlin have really opened up. When they run that 3-2, and in that first half, when it still sort of felt like Elmira might have thought that they could have made it a game, it was less than a 10-point lead, and Oberlin had more shots. They had more opportunities. They out-rebounded them offensively on the glass by 10. Total
missed it.
15.
That was a missed
and the margin
opportunity.
was still only,
You need to shoot
11 or so. I get that you have bad shooting days, but I don't think that it was just not hitting shots.
What's it called?
I'm not saying there's not something to take out his victory.
This just
game. Yeah, this just in. I got a news clip for this game. Talk about the offensive rebounds from. Dude, you know what?
Yeah, doing a lot better here this quarter, though, Jack. Already with 17 points here in this quarter after having 12 in each of the first 2 quarters. We saw it yesterday, too, with that 35-point third quarter. So you can see that, like, Coach Dunbar is going to make those adjustments at halftime. And, on the year, Oberlin's outscoring opponents 183 to 146 in the third quarter. So that that's obviously a good sign to see if you are in that tight game and if things aren't going well, like what do we got to do to fix it? It seems like they're responding pretty well here and well on their way of probably finishing off this victory.
Yeah, I also think that coming off, like I said, a game yesterday, you're not gonna see this kind of stretch until possibly a conference tournament where you have to play 2 teams back to back, because I know how heavily the women's team scouts their opponents and of course the men's team as well, but getting reps in against different kinds of zones and such, it's a lot harder when you have a game the day before that you have to prepare for whatever I guess it was Brunata in that case, was going to throw at you. So then to pivot, and you probably only have maybe a shoot around or a walkthrough this morning, it can always be a little more difficult to kind of adjust to those changes.
Oliver, you kind of talked about this a little earlier, and Coach Shiva did as well. Just interacting when we switch from the West Gym to the main gym. So yeah, nothing but positive things to say about the women's team.
Well, it's a big third quarter there from the Yo women, stretching their lead, holding Elmira again to under 10 points for the quarter. Any closing thoughts for us, Oliver, before we close out and head into the fourth?
No, I think it's been really impressive what the Yo women have done this quarter. I know I said it when I came on the broadcast. They're like the prime Golden State Warriors. They keep it close, maybe not in this case close, but then in the third quarter they just pull away. So should be a comfortable fourth quarter. Maybe we'll see some new faces, and it should be an exciting one.
Where are you at there, Oliver? You look like you got a little suite set up there at getting ready for New Year's or what? What do we got going?
Yeah, so the men's team is out in Crocker Park at the Hyatt Hotel. We campus is closed. I believe the women's team is staying at the Oberlin Hotel. The coaching staff's got us out here in Crocker Park, so it's pretty nice, as you can tell. It's been a lot of fun for us, and we're pretty excited about ringing in the new year and hopefully getting some success in the month of January.
Yeah, conference again on Wednesday for both men and women at Worcester. So hopefully we get the new year kicked off right.
Yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to, doing a back-to-back on the road with the women's team. We'll get to watch their game. Hopefully they'll get to watch our game. I think our game is after, so it'll be a lot of fun to get that experience of cheering them on and hopefully neutralizing a little bit of the famous Worcester home court advantage.
Well, Oliver, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you, especially over a long break like this winter break.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
See you soon.
All right.
And now we're just into this last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter. This is really just a victory lap for the YoCast right now.
Yeah, I think sometimes, as all three of us have, and all four of us actually have experienced. Sometimes in a game where it's not really in question, it's tough to keep commentating over it. But I think having great guests, having great company here, it's really been a good time. As you said, Max, taking a victory lap.
It sort of feels that way, yeah. I mean, and Oberlin really have gotten hot this half. I think those back-to-back days of games, as Oliver was talking about, don't seem to be affecting too much. Those halftime adjustments, and I think Elmira sort of, rolled one belly up here for about the first 5 minutes of that third quarter when they only had like 2 points. So I'm gonna call it.
One thing of note, definitely, Coach Shiva touched on it earlier, but Coach Dunmeyer now 2 games in a row really hitting on these halftime adjustments. It's really a great thing to see going into conference play. And I think in sports in general, we talk a lot about how halftime adjustments is the mark of a good coach. A team that's prepared to make a strong run. Going into the postseason, and this is especially heading into conference play now later this week. It's definitely a good place to be if you're the Yo women.
Yeah, and you got to love this defensive performance today, guys. I mean, I know, the rebounding and then just holding them to 19 points on the year. Oberlin's lowest point total allowed so far was 36 points in a 54-36 win over Muskingum. So I would be safe to say I think they're going to keep it under 36 today and have their season low point total allowed on defense. And hopefully that's something that can continue on into the conference season because like they say, you're going to have your off shooting nights, but defense travels, right? You got to win ugly sometimes, and I know Oliver talked about that. And this is an example of that, where it's like you just got to survive in advance, get a win, no matter how it happens. If it's 100 points or if it's 40 points, as long as you get that win, that no one really cares in the end.
Winning cures all. Camera person. I don't know whoever's on the sticks for this, but the past couple minutes here, they've sort of been dropping the ball.
Dropping the ball here.
Well, they might have zoned out a little bit too with that score line.
It's an unhappy Elmira fan, maybe, who's operating the camera here. Doesn't want to have to watch the beauty of the Yo women's play.
Yeah, you got to imagine Coach Dunmeyer will be emptying the bench here rather shortly, getting some other faces in there, maybe some Taylor Sanchez, Marley Cox, Grace Burns, some Jasmine Roberts, more towards the end of the bench, and get them some minutes here in the final 6-7 minutes or so. As I think we could rubber stamp this one.
And I think it might be a little bit early, but I think you're right, Mike. I think the bench is going to extend here, so might be a preemptive, but I'm going to throw out the player of the game here. I'm going to give it to Jaden O'Reilly. Started not always necessarily actually very rarely the highest sort of score tally on the sheet. Averages about 5 a game. Got about 6, which is about her average, but she offered a ton of sparks. She was really good in the zone, finding space. Hit a couple threes, distributed the ball, 6 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. Really efficient from the field. Probably one of the few Oberlin players to actually shoot well today. What did she shoot? She shot 2 for 4 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, which is by far and away the best shooting percentage. So I think she deserves that. She played really well on both ends. And, talk about winning ugly in a day when your sort of big three are really inefficient. They show up, but they're maybe not as efficient as they normally are. You got to look to that next player to step up and kind of hold down the ship. So
yeah, just two attempts for Camille today, guys. 1 and 2 has the 5 rebounds, but that's a little surprising there. Just to see her only take 2 shots, but yeah, and you mentioned there, Jack. Gina and Bree are both combined, going 4 of 22 right now. So you got to find that production from somewhere else, and then Jaden, and then even Lily with 8 as well. So they've done enough, but hopefully it's a little bit more efficient on Wednesday at Worcester.
I think you'd hope to see them come out maybe a little bit more energetic, on against Worcester, and I think the excitement of conference play should bring that. So I think mostly positive things to look forward to this week. Obviously conference play is a step up from everything else, regardless of who you've played in non-conference, but I think the Yeomen are in a good spot, ready to roll.
People forget they started off the game on a bit of a dry streak. There wasn't too much scoring for the first 5 minutes of this game, and now look, we're almost at 75. We're at 75 points. Yeomen getting their next 3-pointer, and now it's to the 51st point. What do you call that? The half-century mark?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 2-2 for 3.5 minutes or so, and now it's well beyond that. I think I don't think it can be understated the effects of being in a neutral gym. Even when you're at another team's gym, in a way, in conference play, there's a feeling about that. But you're in a neutral gym here, it sort of kind of just feels like, it doesn't really feel like anything. It's hard to imagine this is your opponent and that it matters because the fans here are really just family. You're not having a student section travel or anything like that. So you're not playing at home. So I do think when conference goes around, there'll be a lot more energy about the gym.
Yeah, and then taking a look at that schedule, guys. We talked, Worcester on Wednesday, and then at Denison on Saturday next week before finally coming home again at the host Hiram on Wednesday, January 11th. That'll be over a month in between home games. Now, the last home game all the way back on December 6th against Bluffton. So, it's got to get battle tested on the road with that stretch now, a month away, but it's only 4 games. But you got to learn how to win away from home as well. And then, we talked a little bit too about that winter term break here. As I mentioned, the student section was kind of empty last night, so you kind of lose that home court this month of January too, with not a lot of students being around on campus. So you got to just make sure you're internally motivated, hype your own self up without, not necessarily having all your friends there to cheer you on.
And that'll have to be where you look at sort of, that's where recent performance really matters, when you can lean back on having some wins, being in sort of a good momentum state. Say, we're going to ride out this period here of some away games with good form. So,
what do you guys have for winter term projects? Do you have to do anything?
Senior year, baby.
For me, I am studying for the LSAT, so that has been my main focus these couple weeks. But aside from that, a lot of baseball.
There you go.
I have to, for my legal scholar program, I have to read John Locke's 2 Treatises of Government and write about it. So I will be doing some riveting work. I'll get it done with it, man. See, I'm sure you'll love it.
How is that, Jack? Are you learning a lot?
Check it out.
I haven't started it yet. I'll start it here in the next couple of days. So I just can't wait for it.
How many pages is it?
It's like 300 pages. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Oh.
Me and John will be in the bunkers together, reading, doing a lot of reading.
We can discuss that. Maybe your progress on that. Maybe at the next YoCast, Jack. See what progress.
Let me give you that. I feel like that's the point of this project.
Maybe I'll throw an LSAT question to Max.
Yeah, go ahead. Shoot.
Check his logical reasoning.
Yeah.
Officially doubling them up now, 52-26. Is that right? Does it check my math? You guys are the students. Is that right? Okay.
By the way, I found out some really important information. I know the name of the head coach. His name is Thad.
Thad.
Not
And if
that
that's
much.
the most Thad outfit you've ever seen, I don't know what is.
That is a Thad outfit for sure.
Got a nice little layup there for the Eagles. Need a little bit more of that.
Does it give us minutes here? How long a person's played?
I think it will if you.
Where's let's see.
Maybe not on this one. I don't know.
No, I'm not seeing minutes, but Desiree Roy hitting about her average, having 11 points, but 5 of those coming in the fourth quarter. I really feel like she was quiet pretty much the whole game. I don't really feel like we heard from her at any point. So Oberlin doing a good job at Roy G. bibbing here and keeping her out of the game.
That is one of your greatest ever little acronyms, Jack. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. I mean, I can't take credit for the origin of it, but applying it for its true usage.
We missed out on it.
I hated doing this, being a solo defender going on full court. Really easy way to get your ankles broken there. Good from Gina to move her feet, but I don't really think that's a foul. I think 14 just tripped.
Yeah, the Eagles with 11 points this quarter already, so it's their highest scoring quarter of the day. They might sneak past that 36. I thought Oberlin was going to keep them under 36 for season low total here. It's going to be up against it. So,
yeah, where's the line, Mike? What's the line?
Under the 6 points is minus 125. Ooh, over is plus 120.
That missed free throw actually does you a bunch of favors there.
So we'll see.
Jack, there was a point there where we were pushing a 30-point lead there, trying to get up to the 35 you had said earlier, but now we're hovering more so just around that sweet spot, around 20-ish. But we almost got up to the 35 that you said was what we deserved. So they heard you.
Appreciated it, but I guess it's small potatoes at that point.
And exactly as I summoned earlier, guys, we see Grace Burns in the game already with 2 points. Lee's out there, Roberts, Balderstone, and McCall. So good to see some other players get some action.
Ooh.
What we saw there on that inbounds play, so they're keeping with their zone even on an inbounds play, which some teams like to do, some teams don't. But a lot of times what ends up happening is what you want to do is a lot of times in inbounds plays, you're looking to open up space around the basket. And normally if it was man-to-man defense, you would, if the play is to go from one side and set a screen, block the other player, come to the other side, you would do that. But the thing is, when it's a zone, that person doesn't travel with them as they move. So if we look at this here, so if this Oberlin player is going to come across here, in man defense, this player would travel. They'd move as a unit. But that doesn't happen in zone. This person stays. So a lot of times what they'll do is like these two players will come over here. They'll set screens on these defenders, and these players will come. They might get an open shot. So instead of traveling all the way over and setting a screen, what you do is you come like right here, screen this person, and then you come around, and then there's this pocket here. Or up here, this person right here actually screens the person that's their defender. And then this person comes, and then they've got all this space here that's open. So it's usually a good wrinkle running a zone on an inbounds play because teams aren't used to seeing it, but there's ways to find around it. But, they've kept with it most of this game, and Oberlin are fine just having a release valve go to, the top of the key or the arc and just setting up a play in open field or in the open court. So neither, it's sort of like net neutral there when you look at it that way.
I'm realizing now I think we missed out on an opportunity. Next time Rips comes on, we'll have to do his segment as Ripley's Believe It or Not and drop us a great fact. If he's out there listening, that'll be his next segment.
Under a minute to go, fellas.
We've got some of the rotation players now getting their chance to, huck up their shots, get their volume in. It's good to see. Looks like that you'll keep it under 36, Mancini.
Looks like we got it. There you go. So, yeah, good performance there on that defensive side, and nice balance attack with double-digit scorers. So we'll take it. Win's a win, boys. Enjoy your New Year's.
You as well.
Have fun, right? Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Never.
That could be anything. Well, thank you for everyone for joining our new and improved YoCast. Everyone who's joined, have a great New Year, and join us back for the next time we do this, which should be often. That is my New Year's resolution. So Happy New Year again. Happy New Year, Cini, John, and Jack. Till we see again.
Be safe. Be smart.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Go Yo, fellas.
Go Yo.